Hey everyone, I'm Charting Man Dan, trader and technical analyst with the Chart Guys. In this video, we're going to check in on the markets. What does uranium and cannabis have in common with each other? Excited bulls. We'll see if it's warranted or what we're going to expect in the short term. Lots of excitement out there. Let's get to the charts.
All right, so we'll touch on the broader market first, then we'll get to cannabis, then uranium, and then everything else. So the S&P 500 daily inside bar bear break on the futures chart looks a little bit different than SPY because of the holiday, but we closed near the low of the day. A lot of that having to do with financial sector weakness and healthcare sector weakness. They led the way down. They were both red by 1%, while the NASDAQ was pretty flat. So relative strength in the NASDAQ, we can see it's attempting to be a daily bull flag. And one of the major questions I have tomorrow is, do we follow through into further daily consolidation? And we'll talk about the healthcare sector a bit later because that's going to be key here. But I'm also watching the retracement size. We know bigger picture. We're keeping an eye out for weekly lower highs to be the most likely result of consolidation, or I should say of this bounce. But we would have to see bears pull back 50% from where we just came from, 50% retracement, if they're going to create the space for the bears to try and confirm a daily downtrend. So keep an eye on daily retracement size to determine probabilities, and let's see if the bulls are able to maintain a strong higher low and continuation, or pull back for a few days and set up the possibility of a weekly lower high forming. And NASDAQ, again, a lot of space for the daily higher low. No red flags at this point. NASDAQ was a tug of war today where you had names like Tesla and Netflix going up strong. You had Amazon and Apple a bit weaker on the morning. A lot of back and forth, but the bulls ended up winning the morning and following through. So bears want to see the NASDAQ fall tomorrow if they're going to see further weakness in the broader market as a whole. So MSOS and cannabis, lots of attention. I did a live stream over the weekend if you missed it, hour long of just talking about everything fundamental, technicals. I shared that I think the bottom is in. After today, I think the bottom is in even more. We're going to look for daily consolidation sooner rather than later, but we're going to look for a daily higher low. And again, it's going to be the daily retracement size that helps us gauge this consolidation as to whether it's healthy or not. We still don't have a daily uptrend confirmed, which is the next major step that the bulls need. But keep an eye out to see if we gap up tomorrow. I've got my whole game plan established. If we gap up, I put out a video over the weekend. Check out our YouTube channel about gaps, and that will give you some insight as to what I'm looking at and what I'm going to be doing while I'm live streaming tomorrow morning. I'm still trading the sector in both directions, and I did today on Twitter a bit of a play-by-play. There's a thread on Twitter where I was posting my shorts and my longs and things like that. I'm not going to do that every day. That's what the chat room and the live streams are for, but it was exciting. So the bulls showed up this morning and defended 7 psychological. We broke the high of Friday, which was a great sign, and then the bulls took off. And one of the shorts that I took was on the volume climax and break of 8 psychological. Shorted at 808, covered on the way down, some of the 890s, some of the 880s. Definitely was all out sooner than I should have been, but was running an errand and came back just in time. Wow, I didn't know I bought the bottom. 765, I went long. That's impressive. You shouldn't expect to nail tops and bottoms. I definitely don't, but that's the bottom. And so I swung that position, hoping for a gap up open tomorrow. And if we get that, I will take some profit. Tons of volume. Again, the volume is the reason I think the bottom is set. And individual names outperforming. Just like the weaker, smaller cap names led the way down, they lead the way up. And the reason I like going long rather than shorting as a just generalization is because AYRWF, one of the small cannabis companies here, just went up 150% in 4 days, which is 50% of the gain more than if you shorted the all-time high and covered the all-time low over 2 years. So literally 4 days, 150% versus 2 years, 99%, not to mention what you're going to be paying in margin to be holding for 2 years. So there's more opportunity in markets for bulls than bears. Anything that goes up 100% is now instantly the higher reward than any short can give you. So other names, GTBIF had news, and they're buying back shares. That's pretty unheard of in this very beat up sector. That definitely helped the rally today. You can see it got big follow through, and all these names are now hitting the highest levels we've seen in 2023. And now the next thing will be, can we get over the highs from December 2022? And for MSOS, that level we have all the way up at 1460. So we're in an area now with a lack of resistance, which is a good thing. We're looking at 916 as a little level, but not a ton. And again, just watching for a climax kind of top, just like we saw in the 5-minute time frame today, that led to a 5% plus pullback. I'm watching for that on the daily time frame to lead to daily consolidation. Once we do see daily consolidation, we can pull back, 25% very easily. And then it's just a question of, do we continue to follow through for the bulls from here? So I think the bottom is in. It's just a question of how much upside do we see in this momentum. Wall Street Bets is talking about it. The Canadian names are definitely benefiting, but definitely a lot weaker today. I shorted TLRY first thing this morning as a bit of a hedge, knowing I was going to hold my MSOS swing. Stopped out first thing. The bulls ran. Shorted it again when we failed the high of the day here. Covered into weakness. So again, as a day trader, I'm going to trade in both directions based on what I feel are most likely scenarios. And I'm going to have a swing position as a bear eventually. And TLRY, let's say MSOS gaps up tomorrow, opens at 825, and I take some profit. TLRY, if we open in the 320s but fail the high of today, it might be an hourly lower high shaping up. So for those of us that are full-time traders, there's tons of opportunity when you get this kind of volume and volatility, which is, again, what we're going to be talking about in the chat room and on the live streams often. If you are a swing trader, all you care about is, what does the next daily consolidation look like in these names? And what's the retracement size? The last thing the bulls want to see is for this move to exhaust the scales of demand exceeding supply, and then that's it. And then we just pull back 30, 40, 50% retracement. And that doesn't mean 50% drop. That just means giving back 50% of the move that we saw. So bulls still in control, but looking for a temporary top into daily consolidation sooner rather than later. Uranium. So uranium bulls are real excited as well. The news over the weekend was CCJ had to cut production expectations for the year because they're struggling to pull out uranium from the earth. And so that led to a big drop on CCJ. Bulls bought the dip, still healthy, daily uptrend, EMA 12 support. But what that does is increases the spot price of uranium as the market adjusts for less supply of uranium. And so other names like UUUU gap up, profit taking, and close at the high of the day. And so keep an eye out on the spot price of uranium. I don't even know what that chart is. Because we've seen in the past it run wildly. And this isn't a good chart. Anyways, there was a time where we ran massively. Look back here to CCJ, 03 to 07, the price of uranium exploded. And there was a ton of gains in all these uranium stocks. And these names, CCJ is in a monthly, weekly, daily uptrend. And so bulls are hopeful that the supply constraint on uranium is a fundamental reason for these uranium stocks to break out. URA getting to the highest level in the last 52 weeks. And so just uptrends. Some of the strongest names in the market just because we are at 52-week highs right now. And CCJ is at 16-year highs. So again, keeping an eye on the uranium story and the charts, along with the cannabis story and the charts. Semiconductors failed to break the high of Friday by 1 penny, broke the low of Friday by 18 pennies. Lots of space for the daily high or low. Bears would need to prove control for a number of days if we're going to increase probabilities that a weekly lower high may be shaping up. NVDA, the tightening daily range, is a beauty. How this breaks is going to have significant implications for me on the market as a whole. I'm anticipating a daily high or low compared to 448 is the most likely scenario, and we're going to look for a break of this tightening range sometime end of this week or first thing next week. Bulls would love to see the daily high or low set quickly. That would definitely favor them if the daily high or low is set, but we would have to break the high of today tomorrow for that to be the case. Keep an eye on this chart for sentiment in the stock market. We know NVDA has been getting the spotlight of sentiment. And so we're either going to get a new all-time high or the start of weekly consolidation, which are obviously two very different things. Tesla, lead bear Friday, lead bull today. We could see that lead bull action pre-market. We could see it first thing. And there was a 5-minute rising wedge. I traded this bearish and stopped out break even. So entered bearish on the short in the right around 253. Exit half when we don't get much follow through. Stop over the high. Stop out when the bulls keep that control. My stop for my swing trade from my entry on the gap down a couple weeks ago is now moved up. This is a big enough response to the price pivot of 242 that my stop is now going under that level. If we were to see that level break from here, because that would then be a weekly lower high shaping up. So healthcare is on the verge of confirming a weekly downtrend. And if that happens, that's going to increase probabilities that the S&P 500 sets a weekly lower high. So I'm watching 130. I mean, technically this weekly equilibrium just broke bear, but we need to break 132 to follow through. Big red day. Look, I mean, look at the last 3 days. We open at the high of the day and we close weak. So full bear control the last 3 days, and now a key test of 132. If 132 breaks, I'm on the 2-month time frame and viewing this as the all-time high, low, double top, higher low, and then watching for a lower high. And this would be a multiple year or a year plus tightening range that we will look to break probably end of this year or first thing next year, which will have even further significant implications on the S&P 500 as a whole. But bears still need a little bit to follow through. The financial sector lost daily support of 34.34, only by a penny, but that's significantly increasing the probabilities that a weekly lower high is shaping up. So again, SPY looked very different than QQQ today, and if these two major sectors, 2 out of our 3, start to shape up this weakness on the weekly time frame, I'm going to then be viewing the NASDAQ to be a laggard bear eventually. So watching closely as the XLF bears try and shape up the weekly lower high. And with that, IWM was a lead bear today, down over 2%. Shaping up a weekly lower high. We have a lot of space now. Yes, we can still form a daily high or low, but we've got a lot of space for a daily lower high to be the result of the next bounce. Bears will attempt to confirm the daily downtrend at some point. So probabilities of a weekly lower high shaping up on IWM definitely increasing a lot after today. And this was industrials. I don't ever look at industrials, but they were very weak, and that was a major weight on the Russell 2000 today, in my opinion, because I can't see the weakness anywhere else. The financial sector was weak, but not this week. Industrials are coming off all-time highs. We might be due for longer-term consolidation here if we're shaping up a confirmed weekly downtrend. ARKK, so growth names continuing to keep their bounce going. Still watching for a weekly lower high here as well. There's tons of space for it to form. Regional banks as well. Tons of space for a weekly lower high. Are we shaping up a monthly lower high in regional banks? Inside bar last month, heading towards the low this month? Entirely possible. So there's some names and sectors that have a much higher probability of weekly lower highs forming than others right now. And so I'm watching IWM, KRE, ARKK, all for weekly lower highs. AI earnings tomorrow, tightening daily range. We have not broken the high of that big Thursday dump day. The vast majority of other names that I watch have. So a little bit of relative weakness in that regard, but we'll see what the earnings reaction is. PLTR, weekly head and shoulders watch. Anything under 2024 is a weekly lower high, and a weekly lower high is the most likely scenario. We'll see if the head and shoulders shapes up for longer term consolidation. IONQ, quantum computing, all the way back up. Very significant buying of the dip. Plus 50% in the last 3 weeks. And back to the recent highs. So AI names, aside from NVDA, looking a bit toppy. SMCI has a lot of space for a weekly lower high. It's a potential head and shoulders. So SMCI, PLTR, weekly head and shoulders watch. But IONQ still holding on real well. A lot of space for a daily higher low. It had the same gap down for Tesla. I should say the same gap down buying that Tesla had same day. But plus 50%, a bit better. The dollar. Back to the highs. So we got initial weakness. What did we need to see from there? Bears needed to confirm the daily downtrend for further weekly consolidation. They failed. We broke the weekly stair step by a couple pennies straight into higher highs. What do we have now? 4-month higher low is set. Now we're keeping an eye out. Do we set a 4-month lower high and tighten up for a good bit of 2024? If you're a bull in commodities, crypto, stocks, you would love to see this long-term 4-month downtrend confirm. But there's no sign of that as we're at the highs. I do still need to see a clear weekly uptrend after multiple weeks of consolidation if I'm going to look for follow-through on this 4-month higher low. But we're not going to get any weekly consolidation as long as we remain near those highs. And right now the metals are swimming against the current of the dollar. And so gold rolling over the last couple of days, not meaningfully, but it isn't a weekly downtrend with anything under 1987, a weekly lower high. Again, you can swim against the current for only so long before the current eventually takes you. The dollar has to top out for these metals to gain any confidence. Silver, weekly lower high. We had significant strength on the weekly support hold. Now we've got significant weakness on the weekly resistance rejection. It's a beautiful equilibrium that's going to break sometime likely, well, it doesn't have to be September. End of September, sometime mid-October. But we're looking for a weekly higher low compared to 22.22. But you can see how quickly things shifted. Bulls in absolute control into bears in absolute control with a quick 7% pullback or so in just a few days. Let's see how the brain math goes. No. 6.2. Have to see the dollar weaken. Miners have been the weakest. Weekly lower high, close to being set. Weekly downtrends still present on the metals. And oil bulls following through. News today was Saudis keeping the production cut on or something like that. It led to further upside. Tons of space for a daily higher low. Weekly bull flag confirmed. 4-month higher low. Follow through. Same question as the dollar. Are we going to set a 4-month lower high and tighten up for a good bit of 2024? Or can bulls keep this control? So, new month of September and lots to be watching. Uranium and cannabis have top watch for me. I am going to trade them in both directions. I plan on having bearish position for a swing short. When we do top out in cannabis, I will be looking to add swing longs on daily higher lows. It all depends on how it shapes up, and every single day gives us new information. All right. Don't forget to do good things. Check out the cannabis live stream from over the weekend, the video on gaps from over the weekend. And there was a bear in my yard today while I was trying to live stream. Do good things. As soon as possible, what's the news? And anytime anybody in the chat room asks, what's the news on this ticker? I go to Twitter, I type in that ticker and go to most recent posts, and that's how I find, what the news is, generally within a minute or so. So that's one of the useful aspects of Twitter when seeing what news is. So, back to the setup for